It's getting colder outside and we all know what this means. Anyways, in today's Affinity Photo tutorial, I'm gonna show you how to turn a summer picture into a crazy magical winter scene. But first, let me show you why I personally love winter so much. Alright, so we've jumped into Affinity Photo and this is the image that I want to turn into a winter scene because of course we're getting closer to Christmas. So, as you can see, there's not a single snowflake in this whole image, but we are quickly gonna turn that around. Alright, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to desaturate the greens in this image. So let me select the winter HUD layer. And let's press Command U on the keyboard or Control U on the keyboard, depending on your operating system. And let's target the greens only. So let me hit green right over here. And what I want to do now is I want to desaturate this all the way. Now, as you might see, not really a lot happened. And that is because there's actually quite some yellow in the grass as well. So how to target also the yellows, and that is by dragging these two handles, let's say, further to the left, so we also target more yellow. So let's go something like so, and I think this looks pretty good to me. And we also don't need to target the blue, so we can actually leave the blues for what they are, and something like this looks pretty good to me. So let's fine-tune this a little better. There we go. Alright, now I don't only want to desaturate the greens or the yellows, I also want to increase the luminosity so it actually turns up the brightness a little bit. So let's go to our luminosity shift and let's drag this one all the way to the right, and now you can see we've got some more brightness in our greens, let's say. Alright, now the second thing that I want to do is I want to create a black and white adjustment layer. Now I will hide this one for now, our HSL adjustment layer, and we can actually call this Desaturate. And I'm gonna go to my adjustment layers and I'm gonna create a black and white adjustment layer. Now let's hide this one because we don't really need our Desaturate layer for now. And what I want to do is I want to use my black and white adjustment layer to create a selection. So as you know from masking, white is selected and everything that's black is not selected, and we have to keep this in mind. So I don't want to select my reds. I do want to select yellows because now I know that there are yellows in the greens as well. So let's turn up the yellows a little bit. I also want to select the greens, so let's also turn up the greens a lot. I don't need to select the cyans, I don't need to select the blues, and I also don't need to select the magentas. So maybe something like this. I could increase yellows all the way, but I like to have a little bit of grass texture shining through, let's say. So I will reduce the yellows quite a bit. So maybe set it to 200%. And now you can actually still see a little bit of grass texture shining through. Maybe we can also decrease the greens a little bit. Maybe to something like 245, and this looks about fine to me. Alright, so let's cross this off for now, and now I want to make a selection out of this. So how to do this? We go to our channels panel and we right click on any channel and we click load to pixel selection. So now you can see that we've selected everything that's, let's say, white, and everything that's black is deselected. Alright, the next thing that I want to do is I want to create a fill layer, and to be precise, a white fill layer. So let's go up to edit, or layer I should say, and let's click on new fill layer. And by default you will create a white fill layer, but since we've made a selection, only what we have selected will be turned into white. So our fill, if I hold Alt and I click on our fill layer, you don't really see anything because it's white. But if I show you the before, this is the before and this is the after. Now, by now we don't really need our black and white adjustment layer anymore, so I'm gonna hide that one for now. And I'm gonna select our Desaturate layer. Now, the thing is, everything is desaturated by now, and I want a little bit of green tones to be visible because obviously not everything is desaturated when it's snowing. So I want to add a little bit of green tones to the shadows. Now, how to do this? I'm gonna select my desaturate layer and I'm gonna go to my blend ranges. In the underlying composition ranges, I'm gonna drag this one to the bottom and I'm gonna drag this one a little bit to the left. So now you can actually see there's a little bit of green showing in the shadows, let's say. So this is the before, it's completely black and white, and the after is something like this. And now you can actually see a little bit of green in the shadows of the trees. Alright, so the next step that I want to do to enhance this image, and that is to add a little bit more snow to the trees. And I found a cool way to do this, so bear with me. I want to hold command and I want to click on my fill layer so I actually reload this map or this selection again. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go to my adjustment layers and I'm gonna create an exposure adjustment layer. And what I want to do is I simply want to increase the exposure quite a lot. So maybe not too much. I can actually desaturate for now. This is if I expose it all the way through. This is if I darken it. Very interesting. But let's stick to something like this. Looks pretty good to me. And let's cross this off. Oh, just quickly, if you've been getting value out of this tutorial already, don't forget to give it a like. And if you want to help me grow as a channel, then feel very free to subscribe to my channel. It would mean the world to me. Now let's jump right back into the tutorial. Now, I mentioned before that I want to keep some texture on the grass, and as you can see now it's completely gone. So I want to get rid of the effect in the grass. So let me press B on the keyboard to select my brush tool, and let's select a soft round brush. We could also do this with a gradient layer, but I'm gonna do this with a brush. And I'm simply gonna brush in with black to delete or to get rid of the effect right over here. So let me press Command C. Let's brush in with black right over here. And now you can actually see that it is grass again. So this looks pretty good to me. So let's see the before. This was before the exposure adjustment layer, and this is after. So you can see we've added quite some snow to the trees, which is pretty cool to me. Alright, now of course it has been snowing and there should be some snow on the roof of our little cabin. So let's do that right now, and let's start by creating a new pixel layer on top of everything, and we're gonna make a selection of the roof. So I'm gonna click on my lasso tool, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, and I'm gonna use my polygonal lasso tool to create a selection of the roof. Now, as you can see in the context toolbar, I actually have my freehand selection tool selected, but if I hold shift, you can see that I can use this freehand selection tool as a polygonal lasso tool. So I'm simply gonna make a very quick and sloppy selection, and this looks pretty fine to me. Now, what I want to do is I want to fill this part with white. So my selection, I want to fill it with white. So we're gonna go up to edit, and I'm gonna fill it with my primary color, which in my case is white. Now you can see that I have a little feather of 3 pixels going on, as you can see in the context toolbar right over here. Actually, I don't really want it, but for now I'm just gonna leave it like it is. So, how to add some depth to the to the snow, because now it just looks like a very white surface, but I want to add some depth. So I actually want to add a little bit more snow to the roof. So how to do this? I'm gonna go to the FX panel and I'm gonna create a bevel and emboss effect. So let's click on this one right over here. And now I want to set the type to emboss. And what I want to do is I want to make sure I turn the opacity of the highlights all the way down, because you can see right over here, it looks kind of like a halo or something that is going on, and I don't really need that. So I'm gonna turn the highlights all the way down, and the shadows, I will leave it like it is for now. And now I'm gonna change the direction a little bit. So let me zoom out so we can actually see the whole thing. And let's see what direction I need. So I want some shadows at the bottom right over here, and maybe a little bit of shadows on the right side. So let me see how if I can fix that. So something like this looks pretty good to me. Maybe I want to add some more shadow, so let's go for this. And let's increase the radius just a little bit so we actually add some shadows. So let's go for something like this. And now the effect is a little bit too strong, so I'm gonna click on multiply. And I'm simply gonna reduce the opacity so it is a little bit softer, let's say. So something like this looks pretty fine to me. And let's hit this X to cross it off. So let's see how it actually looks. Let's show the before. This is the before. So there's no single shadow and it looks very flat. And this is the after. And now you can see there's a tiny little shadow going on. Now, as you can see, it is pure white, and this is something I don't really like. I want to give it a little bit of snow texture. So I went on to Google, I found this image or any other image, it doesn't really matter, maybe this one. And I copy this one and I simply paste it onto our document. So let me zoom out a little bit. By pressing Command 0, let's paste it onto our document and let's reshape this thing to the shape of our roof. So let's just reshape this. Something like so, looks pretty good to me. And I'm gonna clip it to the snow on the roof. Now let's rename this roof snow or snow roof. And you can see that we have our snow texture laying on the roof, but actually I'm not really satisfied with how it looks because it is way too opaque, and I just want to show it a little bit so that we just get a tiny little idea of that it's actually some snow and that it's not just a plain white surface, let's say. So I'm gonna reduce the opacity to about, let's say 20%, looks about fine to me. So let me zoom out. This is what it looked like without the overlay, and this is what it looks with the overlay. So it kind of just gives a little hint that it is actually some snow. Now the next thing that I want to do is, because it has snowed a little bit, of course there should be some snow on more parts of this little hut right over here. So I'm gonna go to my snow roof pixel layer. I'm gonna press B on the keyboard and I'm gonna use white as a foreground color. I'm gonna increase the hardness a little bit, so maybe to 26%, and I'm gonna decrease my brush size. And I'm simply gonna brush in some snow. And the fun thing is, because I have my bevel and emboss effect right over here, you can see that everything what I brush in right now will have this effect as well. So the effect will be applied immediately to whatever we paint. So we can simply be as precise as we want. Maybe we add some snow right over here. This looks pretty good to me. Now let's add a little bit of shadow to the top of this little door thing. Maybe on top of this window, maybe on top of, maybe on top of this, a little bit right here and here and here. Of course, usually I would be way more careful with how I draw in the snow, but for now this is gonna be just fine. And you can spend, of course, as much time as you want on this, but I think this looks pretty fine to me. Alright, this looks pretty cool to me, so let's zoom out by pressing Command 0. And let's show you the before, so this was without the snow on the roof. And let's show you the after, there we have our snow on the little hut. Now, there's one more thing that I want to do to finish up this image, and that is to actually add real falling snowflakes. So, let's create a new pixel layer on top of everything. And I'm gonna create my snowflakes with my particle brushes. So I will go to the IAMRENSI particle brushes. There are only 3 brushes inside, but they will just simulate some snow. So let's see what we can actually do. I will zoom out a little bit and make sure my whole brush covers the whole area. Make sure white is a foreground color, and let's click 1, 2, 3, 4 times maybe. And you can see that we've added some snow. So this was the before and this is the after. Now let's select another brush, maybe the second brush, or maybe the third brush actually. Let's increase the brush size and let's click a couple of times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times maybe. Let's decrease the brush size and let's click some more snow inside of our image. So maybe even smaller. Let's add some more snow because it just looks very wintry. and increase the brush size a lot actually, and just add a little bit of extra snow. 1, 2, 3. So this is the before and this is the after. And if you want to get these particle brushes as well, I actually expanded the brush pack a little bit. So now instead of only 3 brushes, there are 10 brushes inside of this particle brush pack. If you're interested in getting these, check out the link down below in the description.